everybody? Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. A double dose of the Prime here today. If you missed the previous episode that me and TJ just did, we broke down the Deshaun Watson suspension. That is on our channel, so if you want to check that out, it's on Prime Sports World Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So go ahead and check out that content. Of course, I've been David Huppin. Right there is Mr. Israel Rivera and TJ Hopkins joining us here on the Fantasy Football Show, his preseason show that he does every year, where he kind of asks us some questions about some fantasy stuff. But yeah, this is going to be our fantasy football preseason advice show. So we're going to help you guys win your league. But yeah, if you're looking for consistent content, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Prime Sports World is a pretty good place to hang out. We go live basically every single day, bringing the most up-to-date content that we can. Also, I'm going to share the StreamYard link into all of the places. So if you want to join us to talk a little fantasy football, more than welcome to do so. I'm going to share that StreamYard link into our main Prime Sports World Facebook page. Please check that out. Gentlemen, happy Thursday, guys. Almost to the weekend. How are you?
Not the weekend yet.
Doing good, man. Doing good, man. It's Thursday, almost Friday, and then it's the weekend, so it's not the weekend yet, David. Yeah, TJ's right.
Well, if you want to be a Debbie Downer, sure.
Buddy. Debbie Downer. That's the actual factual truth. The weekend yet. We still got 2 days to work.
I got 1 day of work.
Well, 1 day of work.
Let's this is gonna be our fantasy advice show. So we're gonna give you some opinions on like how to approach your draft position wise, how to draft your roster construction by the position, and then we're gonna give you some do's and don'ts, and then don't be that guy. Talk about when it comes to fantasy, and then if you're a first time player, we're gonna have some advice for you as well. Gentlemen, let's get into it. Let's talk about first. By the way, position draft strategy. Let's talk about quarterbacks first. Izzy, what's your draft strategy when it comes to quarterbacks? Yeah, stop it. You're on the show. I can see you. All right. What's your position strategy? What's your position draft strategy when it comes to the quarterback position?
I usually like to, if I'm going with a quarterback, I usually like to get a quarterback that has some red zone potential, that can rush it in. So usually the last couple years, Josh Allen has been the top fantasy point getter, in standard leagues. So, and he has red zone potential, but he also can fling it. But I mean, yeah, you want to go out and get a quarterback that's got a lot of weapons that can really fling it. I mean, Justin Herbert was up there last year as well. But my strategy is, I like to wait a little bit on the quarterback because I like to go get my skill position guys first. You can usually wait on the quarterback, wait till like the, 4th or 5th round.
I am regularly the last person in fantasy to take a quarterback.
Right? Right.
Like I will, like I just did a draft. I don't necessarily love the team that I drafted, but I took Kirk Cousins around like 9, dude. Like the difference between like quarterback 1, the difference between quarterback 1 and quarterback like 15 is really only like 2 or 3 points a week.
First off, Dave, I looked at that team that you quote unquote not happy about. That's a pretty solid team. Like what do you like about that team? I don't get it.
I never drafted tight end early, and like we're gonna get into that in a minute, but like it just threw off the rest of my strategy. Like I'm just not used to drafting a tight end early, but Darren Waller was there. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna take him. But then my running backs didn't have like the depth I like, and like a bunch of my running backs had the same bye, what I wasn't really paying attention to when I drafted the team. And so, like, week 6 is going to be a kind of a bit of a struggle because I have, like, 2 running backs and a wide receiver all on a bye the same week. But quarterbacks, I mean, and also I'm only taking 1. Like, I don't usually ever draft a backup quarterback. Like, I think usually in leagues that are, 12 or 10-man leagues, there's usually somebody in the waivers that I can just pick up and draft. I can pick up and start one.
In the league that we play in, David, we have that.
Well, that league is a little bit different than the standard scoring league.
Yeah, we can have the option to pick. You put any player in the flex spot. So
even a kicker
draft 2 quarterbacks. Yeah, I hate that. So I'm in a I hate the draft. If you don't need to draft 2 quarterbacks, like don't draft. I mean, I hate that you draft 2 quarterbacks. Sometimes in these like big like I'm in like a 14, 15 man league or whatever the case is, 14-man league, and like some guys draft 2 quarterbacks, and it's like why be greedy, right? Why be greedy?
I mean, they do get hurt. I mean.
Quarterbacks do get hurt, and so, but like I mean, this year, you're swinging for the fences if you try and go draft a backup rookie, thinking that maybe your starter is gonna get get injured or whatever the case is. But usually, I don't like to even waste that spot. I will go ahead and
I
go
agree. I agree with you, especially in a 10 or 12 man league. Like
waiver wire.
you can just pick somebody up for that bye week. Like I usually draft my quarterback. This is going to be my guy for the entire season. I'll just roll with him.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go into the waiver wire in my bye week. What I like to do in my draft strategy overall is I got 2 spots on my team in which I really like just swing for the fences. I just like pick a player like in the last couple rounds where I'm like, okay, they may have potential, they may not have potential, but at least I know that I could drop these guys and I won't be mad about it. And I could drop these guys for a quarterback or running back or wide receiver or tight end, something like that. So yeah, that's just my strategy, and it's been working because I've won some championships, I won some money, and I've been very successful in every league. I always make it to the playoffs in every league I'm in.
TJ,
I get the whole drafting 2 quarterbacks thing because sometimes that QB on the waiver wire is like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold.
It's true. I mean, I sometimes I almost think about punting a week, like drafting all of my players on the same bye and just having 1 week where my team is I'm just punting the week, and I'll be strong every other week. Let's talk about running back draft strategy. I have a very particular running back draft strategy. I draft a ton of them. I usually take 3 in the first 4 rounds. They get hurt. Their workload is interesting at times. I want to have as many bullets in the chamber as I can when it comes to the running back position. I want to have as many of those players on my team. And I also like to avoid people that are in a timeshare, which is extremely hard to do in fantasy right now and in football in general, because every team has like a running back that not every team has like a bell cow running back like Derrick Henry. Like there's always like that guys that go to certain, and Antonio Gibson, who was like a bell cow running back the last couple of years, it's not that guy right now. Like I think J.D. McKittrick's going to eat into his touches. But yeah, I draft a ton of running backs. I usually have you're allowed to have 8 usually on a roster. I usually have 8 by the time the draft is done.
We see that you see that in the league, right? A lot where there is a 2 running back system, and then you got usually a change of pass. I mean, Philly got 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
So and then none of them. I mean, Miles Sanders might get the bulk of the work, but I mean, none of them really are gonna stand out. Like they're not going to be the bell cow guy like a Derrick Henry, like a Jonathan Taylor. Not even like guys like Zeke. Zeke is not good. Tony Pollard's going to eat.
He for sure is, definitely.
So yeah, when I look at drafting a running back, I like to draft them early and often. If it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The first 2 rounds is usually safe for a running back unless I have that like Cooper Kupp or that Devontae Adams. If I don't see a running back that I don't like, and then I can wait a little bit and I can go draft, that's kind of risky. I will admit that's risky.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't pass up on a guy like Cooper Kupp, who, other than a quarterback last year, and out of the skill positions, other than Jonathan Taylor was number 1 out of the skill position, and Cooper Kupp was number 2. At the wide receiver position. So you're starting to see those wide receivers starting to have some value like in that. I mean, now he wants
especially in a PPR league. Like
yeah, absolutely in a PPR league.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. The thing is, like, I always like to take at least 1 running back in the first 2 rounds. Like, I usually like to take my wide receiver in the second round too. It really depends on how the boards ends up shaking out. Like, I need to have somebody that I think is the number 1 wide receiver on the team that they're on. So, like, in the league that TJ just referenced, like, I think my wide receiver 1 is Mike Evans. I'm pretty happy with having Mike Evans as my number 1 wide receiver. Like, I'm good with that. I need to have a guy who's that caliber or better as my number 1. And my running backs, I just need to have a bunch of them. I preferably rookies. Like, I think the kid from Buffalo is a pretty interesting draft pick. Kenneth Walker. Like, the people that are going to, like, take time from established veterans is people I like to take the swing in the fences in. Let's move into wide receiver. How do you like to approach the wide receiver position when it comes to your draft strategy?
There's a ton of them. There's a ton of wide receivers out there. It's kind of like so you can be a little bit more patient. You can't be as patient with running backs, right? Because you run out of running back 1s after a certain point, right? Not everybody's a running back 1, even though they're the best running back on the roster. They're not a running back 1 in fantasy football. So when you start to run out of when you start getting into guys like the running back 3 range or running back 2, then you can start picking a wide receiver over those guys, right? But you could be a little bit more patient with the wide receivers, right?
Every team starts 3 wide receivers as opposed to only 1 running back. I mean, that's all you need to know.
Right. So, I mean, you can go get an anomaly guy, like a guy that's just a unicorn and like a Cordero Patterson, right? Who's gonna be getting running back touches and he's gonna have a wide receiver and a running back.
I think he's only eligible as a running back.
This year.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have.
I was loving it.
I don't think you'll have that. I don't think you'll have that dual eligibility this season.
Yeah. But yeah, no, guys like that, you can find later on in the draft. That have some running ability as well. But yeah, no, you can be a little bit more patient with your wide receivers. You can get them a little later after you draft your running backs. I like to draft usually my first 2 or 3 picks are running backs. And then I start getting into wide receivers. Unless if I don't like the running back, like I said previously, if there's like a Devontae Adams, if there's a Jamar Chase, if there's Justin Jefferson there, I'm taking them.
I agree with you on that. And also, when it comes to the wide receiver position, the depth is just so much more immense than the running back position. I don't need to have 8 wide receivers because they don't get hurt as much. I'm usually okay with if I come out of a draft with 5 wide receivers, I'm usually pretty good. I can only start 2 of them anyways. I probably won't start them in my flex position. I usually like to put running backs there because even though the mindset's kind of changed about the guaranteed touches rule, because running backs, that's the reason people love running backs is the touches are guaranteed. But it's not. I don't think that's the case anymore. DJ,
I forgot which one we on now.
Wide receivers.
We on wide receivers.
Okay. I guess they're tricky because it's easy to fall in. Well, this is like any other position. It's easy to fall into that trap of, oh, this guy's a big name, so I'm gonna get him. I'm not wasting any time. To Izzy's point, if a guy like Justin Jefferson is there or Keenan Allen is right there, it's hard to pass that production up, right? Because you run that risk of, damn, I'm going to pass on him in the hopes of finding somebody else, and then it's you run that option of, damn, now I'm stuck with trash cans and garbage.
No. Now you stuck with a guy like let's say Curtis Samuel or something down the line.
Yeah.
So, as your wide receiver 3 or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
So it's I get it.
Darius Toney.
Right.
I like Kadarius Toney this season.
I like Kadarius Toney too. I'm just saying,
he's my wide receiver 5 in the one
league. He ain't gonna be my wide receiver 2, damn it.
No, I don't know.
All right, so everybody's strategy is different. You try to do what works for you, but after a while, that strategy becomes a bit redundant because the game changes.
I'm gonna be real with you. If you're picked, say you're in a 12-man league and you're picked, usually if you're in a snake draft and you're picked, and say you get the 11th pick, say you're in a 12-man league, you get the 11th pick, you're gonna pick 14th, right, David, or something like that. You're gonna pick 14th or 15th or something like that.
Yeah.
The next round. So you can go get you a top because by that time all the running back ones are gonna be gone. Right?
True.
By that time, you go get you a wide receiver 1 and then go pair him up with a running back 2. That's what I usually like to do if I'm in that situation with the first round. Let's say I have the very last pick or back end of the last. I'm taking 2 running backs back to back because I know I'm gonna get a decent wide receiver when the swing around. I'm gonna have to wait forever, but you're gonna have to wait forever.
I mean, it's gonna be a long wait, but I know there will at least be a startable, a number 1 wide receiver that'll still be there when I pick again. I'm not so sure that running backs are still going to be there because we're talking about 20 players. What is it, 20, 26, 27 players coming off the board before you pick in between your picks? That's a long time to wait and watch players come off your board.
And this year in particular, you don't really have many rookie running backs that are going to get an opportunity. You got probably 3. You got Breece Hall, you got Kenneth Walker, and you got
Sam Jones. So not Sam Jones.
The kid from Buffalo.
His name is totally escaping me right now.
Dalvin Cook's little brother. Yeah, Dalvin, James Cook. So you got really 3 rookie running backs that I see some value in this year that you can kind of wait and be like, okay, I could wait a little bit. But even those guys are going to be gone by like maybe the second round. James Cook's going to last a little bit longer, I think.
I got James Cook in like the second to last round in that draft. I took him in.
Yeah,
like,
so but
before
I think
I got in.
Walker, Brees Hall, they're still going to be available. They'll be available in the 3rd round or so.
So let's talk about roster construction. How many quarterbacks do you coming out of your draft with? Just one?
Absolutely, just one. Unless I'm in a 2 quarterback league, yeah, I'm not gonna waste a pick on handcuffing a quarterback. The only time I'll draft a quarterback, 2 quarterbacks, and God forbid I've never done this in a non-2 quarterback league, is if I waited so damn long to draft a quarterback. And like probably I drafted like a rookie, and I'm gonna pair him up with like some veteran,
like a Matt Ryan or like somebody like that.
And I'm just gonna go week to week, varying who has the better matchup against which team.
I agree with you on that. Running backs, I'm coming out of there with 8 running backs. Wide receivers, I'm gonna come out of there with about 5. That's how I usually like to construct my roster when I'm coming out of the draft.
8 running backs. Golly.
Yeah.
I'm at least having about 5 and 5.
Yeah. Let's talk about the tight end draft strategy and how many you're going to have on your roster when the draft is over. Tight ends.
I actually like to draft 2 tight ends.
So what's your draft strategy when it comes to the tight ends? How do you approach it with?
Okay, so the first 5 tight ends that are going to be off the board are going to be Kelsey, Andrews, Waller, Pitts, and probably TJ Hawkinson and
George Kittle.
I forgot about George Kittle. George Kittle got 6 tight ends. So
TJ Hawkinson's not gonna come on. I would not reach for TJ Hawkinson. I've made this pretty clear when I talk about the tight ends. Like after those first 5 guys, all of those rest of those guys are kind of similar, and none of them really give you the immense upside that you're really looking for out of the tight end. I'm gonna be the last person to take a tight end if I don't get one of those first 5 guys, and then I'm just gonna, if that doesn't work out, I'll take a flyer. Like Irv Smith Jr. is a guy I like. Mike Gesicki is a guy I think can have some upside. And if that does not work out, I am going to stream my tight end every week for the rest of the year. I will literally pick up and drop somebody every year. I will own 1 tight end. I will not draft him in the first 5 rounds.
Great strategy.
You cannot throw TJ Hawkinson in the same sentence as Irv Smith Jr.
I didn't, but
you did. You literally
TJ Hawkinson is not that much more. Like his fantasy production is not that much better than Irv Smith Jr. When Irv Smith was a star,
hasn't even been available, David.
I shouldn't have said Irv Smith Jr. I meant like Mike Gesicki is probably a better example. Bobby Schultz's cousin Dalton Schultz is a better example.
Dalton Schultz is a better example.
Dallas Goedert.
Pat Freiermuth. See, you got those
Pat Freiermuth, Zach Ertz. I mean, Hunter Henry, Gerald Everett. Like those guys are.
Pat Freiermuth. I would say TJ Hawkinson's a fringe tight end 1. If he's healthy, he's a tight end 1.
Yeah, I mean, all he has to do is be healthy. I mean, yeah, he's a tight end at 1 because there have to be 10 of them that start. Anyway, so he's for sure a tight end at 1. Come on, dude, what are you talking about?
I like to draft 2 tight ends. That's a tight end. A tight end, TJ. I'm sorry, TJ, but a tight end is. I always say I keep 2 spots in which I just don't care about really, and where I like just kind of roll the dice, and I like to swap in running backs and wide receivers and tight ends throughout the whole year. I use that draft pick on a tight end.
I will own 1 tight end, and if that tight end that I decide to pick doesn't work out in my favor, I will literally just stream them for the entire season. TJ Hawkinson, by the way, that we want to talk about real quick, 16th in fantasy points last season. He had less points. I know he didn't play all season, but he had less points than Jared Cook, Tyler Higbee, Noah Fant, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, Dawson Knox. Like, yeah, I'm not like.
Mike Gesicki played in every game last season, did he not? He played all 17 games.
He did.
He started 9. Mike Gesicki came secure the starting tight end spot on his own team, and on top of that,
I love Mike Gesicki.
He played the entire season he only had 200 more receiving yards than T.J. Hawkinson, who missed 5 games, but they're all the same.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
TJ Hawkinson.
This is about draft strategy. I'm not talking about like how I value them as actual players. Like I just don't draft those fringe tight ends. Like those guys go in anywhere. Those guys, the guys we're talking about right now, with T.J. Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert. Those three guys particularly go somewhere within like the 7 to 12 round, 10 round range. I think there is better value in other positions like running back or wide receiver, where I'd rather go that direction and end up with somebody like Zach Ertz on my team as my tight end, as Mike Gesicki as my tight end.
I'll say this. If I don't get a tight end, I don't like the first 5 or 6 tight ends that I mentioned, then I'll pretty much wait. Like David said, I'll wait until like almost close to the end of the draft. I'll get a guy like Pat Freiermouth. I'll get a guy like Albert O. I'll get a guy like that.
Noah Fant. I mean, Gerald Cook.
I'll even go get this year. I'll get Zach Ertz. I'll get Zach Ertz in his backup.
Yeah,
I do that. That's a great.
I just think the draft strategy on tight ends is different than almost any position, because like I think if I'm not gonna end up with Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, and George Kittle, I don't even consider Kyle Pitts.
Who, by the way,
I want to see Kyle Pitts do it again.
By the way, if I have a first round pick towards the end of the first round and I don't like a wide receiver or the running back, I'm going with Travis Kelce.
I agree.
Still there.
He gives you a substantial position value over your opponent every single week. And I mentioned on the show we did where we predicted the winners, like award winners. I think he could win Offensive Player of the Year. I could see him having 130 catches this season, like 1,600 yards. His usage rate is going to be absurd.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be definitely in that top 15, top 20 range of fantasy points.
Yeah. Sure. Moving on from tight ends, CJ, any final comments before you want to eviscerate me some more?
he said, "Man, I'm tired of this show already." He said, "Hawkinson with Mike. Hey, how can you guys? Hey, TJ, it's crazy because a guy like Jalen Hurts has more value than a guy like Aaron Rodgers this year.
Tom Brady has more value than Tom Brady. Like Jalen Hurts is like a top 5 tight. He's a top 5 quarterback.
A better player, TJ. No,
and that's what I don't understand about none of that. Like how you go into a season and like the whole fantasy thing, like because this thing like this is huge now. They turn it into a literal science. They literally have fantasy specials on ESPN. Like they literally have a whole show.
Man, Matthew Berry just got paid a truckload of money to leave ESPN and go to NBC. A literal truckload, and the only thing he does is fantasy sports. And like a truckload of money. The guy paid him. They paid him a truckload of money.
They spend 2 hours talking, like literally doing the same thing, breaking down quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, who to look out for on the waiver wire, top defenses, all that good stuff. But I want to know what went into the decision of, could it be that he has better weapons than an Aaron Rodgers, or like who else?
No, it's Jalen Hurts.
This is running value.
It's running value, and he's rushing touchdown value.
That's it. He's gonna have
because in most fantasy football leagues you get 6 points for a rushing touchdown as opposed to only 4 for a throwing touchdown.
Right, and then you get 10 points. You get a point for every 10 yards on the ground running,
and you only get a point for every 25 yards to the air
passing. Yeah, and you only get 4 points for every passing touchdown.
Yeah, so there's a significant difference.
He's got the running, he's got the red zone ability, he's got the rushing ability that's going to have him with more value than Rodgers and Brady, even though they're better quarterbacks.
Derek Carr, all those guys. Matt Ryan,
better quarterback. Yeah.
So real quick, we can just pump these two groups together. Let's talk about your draft strategy when it comes to defense/kickers. By the way, when it comes to tight end, I will only have one on my roster. I will, whenever that bye week comes up, I'll just drop somebody and stream somebody. I don't care who it is. Defense and kickers. What's the draft strategy when it comes to defense and kickers?
Defense. I'm waiting until that's gonna be, if it's like a hell of a deep like this year. If it's number one defense might get picked. Probably like 4th to last pick, maybe 3rd. 4th to last pick. Maybe I hate people that draft any earlier than that.
Me too. We'll get to those people. We'll get to those people when we get to the next part of the show.
Defense. You know, it takes. Sorry, Dave, but like, you know, if you look at like, you gotta kind of have to pay attention to like the kick returns too, right? Like, you know, the kick returners as well, because you got to look at who's probably gonna, you know, score a few touchdowns this year. Of like the Dallas Cowboys defense, right? Like Tony Pollard might have some kick return duties this year. He has been having kick return duties. He'll run a couple back this year. He'll get one back. I love Dallas because Dallas has the best turnover margin in football. So what happens? Interceptions, touchdowns, all of that stuff is great for fantasy football. Dallas is gonna be good. I mean, but really, ultimately, I want a team that's not gonna give up a lot of points, not a lot of yards. A team that's gonna at least just give me 10 points, solid. Anything over 10 points is love, but
100%. When I'm drafting my defense, I usually look at the secondary and the pass rush, because you get 1 point per sack, 2 points on interceptions. I look for a team that has a really good pass rush or a really good secondary. If a team has both, that's probably the defense I want to have on my team. Like Philadelphia, I'm really all in on Philadelphia Eagles defense this season, and the Saints as well. Like those two defenses are going to be, I think, are severely underrated by the quote unquote experts. Like I think those two defenses are going to be elite this season. Like they're going to be the best defenses in fantasy.
I love for my Green Bay Packers, huh?
No, I mean Green Bay's gonna be fine, but I mean, I want Saints or I want Philadelphia. With that, or the Chargers. I think when they talk about the Chargers, like they should have a top flight defense in fantasy. I'm not taking a defense until the second to last round. I refuse to draft it any earlier. And please don't be that guy that takes a defense in like round 10 or like thinks you need to take a defense like real early just to fill out your roster. Like I hate those people.
My uncle was in a fantasy football league with me like 4 or 5 years ago, and he ended up picking like he picked the number 1 ranked defense, but it was his first time ever playing fantasy, and he picked the number 1 ranked defense. He picked him with like the third pick in the draft, the 3rd round. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You could have got that team, you could have got that defense like way down the road in the draft. Don't be that guy.
Sorry. Yeah, don't be that guy. My kicker strategy is I usually try to pick a kicker who has an offense that's going to put up points. I just like.
What's my kicker strategy? If it ain't Justin Tucker, if it ain't who else? Give me another name. You know what?
I'm all in on Hopkins this season. I think Hopkins is going to be a real.
Dustin Hopkins. You know, TJ, I did this just because of the name, and I wanted the name and to name my team this. I picked Young Hui Koo a couple times.
It is a pretty great
last year when I had no business picking Young Hui Koo last year because I knew that the Falcons' offense was going to be horrible last year. He wasn't going to get as many opportunities to kick that ball because the year before he was like tops in.
He was the best tight end. He was the best kicker in football.
He's the best kicker in fantasy football. But then like last year, like he's injured a little bit, and then you had the
Falcons as a whole.
I picked him straight up because of his name, and I was like, yeah, I want to name my name. My old chick cool. My old chick was nice, but my young. But no, this is my strategy when it comes to kickers. I'm gonna turn the phone off. I'm gonna go play. I'm gonna go pick up. Go play the game, and I'm gonna let the draft pick my kicker. Auto draft, baby.
I'll never auto draft my kicker. I want to pick that guy.
Auto draft, son.
But yeah, I'm only having one defense. I'll have one kicker on my roster. I usually actually the defense that I pick in the draft is almost never the defense I finish the season in. I almost always stream my defense from week to week every year.
I do that too a lot. I always pick a team, and then when I pick a defense, and then they last like half the season. Once they hit their bye week, it's over with. I'm streaming the defense from that point on, unless it's a defense I really like, and I'm like, frick, I gotta use one of these spots to just waste a spot on a defense that I don't like that I'm just gonna use for 1 week. Shit, that sucks.
Yeah, TJ, thoughts?
First, again. The draft, everybody's draft strategy is different. Like y'all hate the people that draft defenses early. Let them people be great. Just let them be great. Especially
spoken like a true man who doesn't play fantasy or cares about it at all.
Because why y'all let it bother y'all so much? Like if y'all know that
because it messes up the rest of the draft. Like all the
how
everything, the integrity of the league gets compromised when stuff like that
how
happens. Because players that shouldn't, like players
what
that normally
integrity?
wouldn't be available in certain rounds are all of a sudden there. It throws off the integrity of the entire league.
That's integrity.
Yeah,
That's the word. That's the word you're supposed to use.
yeah, it does. It does.
I could care less about the kicker position. I'll streamline the hell out of my kicker all year.
Me too.
All year round.
Right. That's why I'm not really, kickers. If you had to do a poll about who was the most picked up and dropped position week to week, it's definitely probably kickers.
No, it's the defense. I think it's probably the defense. People draft their kicker and they're just like roll with it.
Dude,
they're just like whatever, dude. Just do your thing.
People are going to pick every defense that plays Jacksonville.
And
Houston.
The Jets. I mean, like
everybody's going to pick every defense that plays those two teams.
Moving on to the next part of the show, let's talk about overall fantasy advice. So this is moving away from the draft a little bit. Let's talk about some do's. What are some do's that you think this is something you should do as a fantasy owner?
Do's. Go get your skill position guys early. Do your research on your rookies. Okay? Do your research on your second year guys that are going to have some potential. Don't overreach. We'll
get to the don'ts. We'll get to the don'ts. This is just do's.
I forgot.
This is just do's.
But yeah, those are my 3 do's really right there. Get your skill guys first. Do your research, and draft a rookie or two, especially if you're in draft a high quality rookie, especially if you're in a keepers league. That's definitely a do.
For me, for my dues, so if you're drafting a running back that's quote unquote the guy, like if you're drafting a Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor, do know the handcuff. Like make sure you know who that guy is. Make sure you know who that guy is. Make sure you know make sure you draft him even. Like if you have Derrick Henry, I'm not even sure who the backup is right now. But if you have Derrick Henry on your team, you need to make sure you have that handcuff. If you have Jonathan Taylor, make sure you have his handcuff. Dalvin Cook, make sure you have Dalvin Cook's handcuff. Even though
Alexander Madison,
probably in a bit of a timeshare, so we'll see. I would take wide receivers with really good potent offenses. Like I wouldn't draft a wide receiver from like the Jaguars, or if I'm drafting a wide receiver from the Houston Texans, as much as I like Brandon Cooks, that's somebody I probably would avoid this season.
You're not drafting Christian Kirk?
No. I'm also not like, so yeah, do make sure you draft wide receivers that are on high potent offenses, and do wait on a tight end. Just wait. If you don't get one of the top 5 guys, be the last guy to take one. Let's talk about don'ts. Fantasy football game. TJ, you got any thoughts real quick before we move on?
Nope.
Okay.
Don't.
Wait, I got one. Do what you want to do. Do
what you want to do because he don't care about this shit. Anyways, don't go and reach for a guy that treated you well 2 years ago, right? Don't go and reach for a guy that's in a lockout situation or a contract situation, right? It. Don't reach for those guys. And also, and so when I would say don't reach for a guy that treats you well, like Christian McCaffrey, like Saquon Barkley, like like a Ezekiel Elliott. Don't reach for those guys because those guys are not running back ones anymore. Okay, Saquon Barkley hasn't been a number. Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. Well, Saquon Barkley in 2018 was the second highest point getter next to Gurley. And then the year after that, Christian McCaffrey was like number 2 in all of fantasy. He had that one monster year. And then after that, they haven't done anything, right? And Zeke has always been top 10, right, in terms of running backs. But, like, don't reach for those guys. Also, don't go ahead, don't draft a defense super early. And that kind of goes into don't be this guy. I kind of had a story earlier. Don't draft your defense early. Don't draft your kickers too early than what they can. And if you're not in a 2 quarterback league, don't waste a spot on another quarterback. That doesn't make any sense.
Do what I want to do.
Don't.
Unless you're in a dynasty league. And you go and draft.
Oh, I think we're losing them a little bit. Don't. So this is more of a draft strategy. So don't panic. Like if you have your set on like your strategy and you decided that this is how I'm going to handle this fantasy football draft, just because there's been a run on quarterbacks doesn't mean you should avert from what you have originally planned. There are going to be runs on quarterbacks. There are going to be runs on tight ends. There are going to be runs on running backs. There are going to be runs on wide receivers. Don't buy into the run. If you have your strategy set up, it's because there's been a run up position that you may want later. You have to believe in your strategy enough to not buy into the runs. You just have to. I mean that goes back to don't be this guy, but also don't take players that are retired and you think you're going to come back. Like Rob Gronkowski, don't draft him. He's not going to come back. Like all those years, like if people were drafted like Brett Favre, like Brett Favre's going to come back and play. Like no, he's done.
Is he? Andrew not coming back.
No, but I mean those guys aren't even available in the draft anyways.
Not anymore, but they for sure used to be.
They're not going to be available in these drafts. Don't do stupid stuff like that. I mean, don't draft. Also, if it's a guy that's not named Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, I wouldn't even draft a quarterback in the second round.
I wouldn't. I'm going to wait on it. Don't draft the quarterback early. Let's talk about don't be this guy. If you had to be one thing, there's just one thing that's don't be this guy. What is your one thing?
Man.
So don't be this guy who joins the fantasy football league and stops playing after your team stinks.
Oh, I hate that so bad.
One of my super big pet peeves. That is my number one. Don't be this guy.
No.
If you draft a team and it stinks, just play the season out because
I got two of them.
Throwing off the integrity of the league when you don't start your team.
Oh, you're right, and you're not playing. Don't be this, and you're just an easy win. I got two of them. Don't be this guy when your team stinks. You're out the playoffs, and you're like, I'm just gonna drop everybody and just
or make waiver claims. I hate that too.
Oh, yo! You know who's the king of that?
Who?
Graybo. Oh my God, he's the king of that. Graybo, our friend, my old college roommate Graybo, would be out of contention, and he will pick up. He'll have number one, and he'll pick up a waiver wire pickup that he has no business picking up.
He did that to me in the finals. He did it to me in the finals last year.
You gotta keep playing until the season's over with. No.
He did it to me in the finals last year. In the finals of the fantasy football championship, he picked up somebody that I had on my waiver claim. I'm like, dude. What the hell? It was horrible. Yeah, don't be that guy either.
I remember that. And then don't be this guy. So I'm in a couple leagues. Don't be this guy where you click up with your friend and you make some stupid one-sided trade because you're out the playoffs and you want to help your friend win the damn season. And say you're in a money league and your friend says, "Well, help me get this guy, and I'll give you $200 out of this $1,400 winnings." Don't be that damn guy. I hate that crap.
I hate that guy too. TJ.
That was great. Y'all done?
Yeah.
For real. I've seen it all, man. I've seen it all.
First off, why are y'all allowing folks in y'all fantasy league? If that's how y'all know, that's how they get down.
Because I mean, it's a legacy league. Like my league's been running for over 10 years. Like it might be over 15 at this point. Like we've had basically the same basic people in it since then.
And legacy.
And there's been some people in and out changes, but it's basically been the same.
I know I've been in it for 10 years.
Yeah, so it's basically been the same 12 people for 10 years.
Okay, but if y'all got these pet peeves where I'm pretty sure y'all not alone. Like everybody hates the guy that my team is. Wait, how many weeks is a fantasy?
Because it's a love, dude. It's like this is like one of the things that connects us forever, dude.
It's different, TJ. So the regular season.
So just
fantasy football's played out.
Y'all league. How long is y'all league?
It's the full regular season, but the regular season is played out only to week 13, right?
Or
week 14.
14. So then the playoffs are 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
Okay. So if if you have a guy in your league that by week 7 is completely like that by week 7 they're going to be out of it, and they just do one of those annoying things that y'all hate. They just drop everybody.
My league is set up so you can't do that.
Yeah, no. So TJ,
yeah.
You don't. This is my thing, TJ. So in a free league, like players like you're gonna expect some of that, but you don't expect that in a money league.
Yeah,
right.
Like that, you don't expect that kind of bush league stuff in the money league.
Yeah, you don't expect that. Like that's why David tweaked our league to be a money league. So guys actually, because there are some guys that stop playing in the middle of the season, or they just show up to draft and then that's it, and they're like, oh, this is cool, and then they don't play the rest of the season. I don't want to name names, but then I got guys. There's guys in like some money leagues where I'm paying $150 in the pot, and I could get $1,500 or something like that, to win. And then you got guys that are out of contention. They click up with their buddies and they do some stupid stuff just so they can get a little bit of money, so they can get their money back. No, I
hate that too. So let's go to the final.
That should be like an established rule. Like you have to see it through. No helping your friends. Like your team is your team. Like don't like the whole one-sided trade thing. Like let's say a guy has like.
Well, I mean, they're a veto power, so you can like the league.
Yeah, there's vetoes.
Right? Like there's a check and balance system in there that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's vetoes, but like you got guys that make that.
I understand that. So like as a commissioner, like you see whenever somebody wants to trade, right? Like the fact that like let's say somebody is out of it, but their friend is.
Well, I can lock their team.
Okay, like very well. Like let's say the guy that's out of it has like Cooper Kupp, right? Or the guy that's out of it has like Cooper Kupp, and he wants to trade that Cooper Kupp to his friend that still has a chance to win it all. Right?
Like, I mean that's why vetoes are a thing.
Yeah, and then it's crazy because those same guys will scream to the moon as to why this trade should go through, and it's like, no, bro, no. This trade should not go through, and it'd be these guys, right? It'd be these guys that made an excellent waiver wire pickup, right? They have an excellent waiver wire pickup. They can use that waiver wire as a starter, trade that starter for an even better starter at a skill position, and then you're just like, oh, bro, we already know what you're doing, bro.
They'll make a great waiver wire pickup, and they'll have him for like 1 week. He'll blow up for 1 week, and then they'll literally try to trade him away for like a guy's top flight starter. I hate that stuff too.
I hate that too.
Advice for the first-time player. If you are a first-time fantasy football player watching this show, if you had one piece of advice for anybody who's a first-time fantasy football player, what would it be?
Well, I say it every year. Don't get caught up on the name. All right, especially like if one guy last year was, to Izzy's point, was great for you, right? Like again, that person has to do it again. David said this about Kyle Pitts earlier in the show, and I'm glad it's finally rubbing off on David and Izzy to an extent, because they would make these top 10 lists, and they would put guys who had one great year in their top 10s. I'm like, no, he's not top 10 list. Or like Izzy was about on that with Darren Waller a few years back, and I'm like, no, do it again.
Oh yeah, he's done it a couple times. But no, I made a mistake one year, and I'll go back to the this is one of my don'ts. Like don't draft the guy that's in a contract. Remember that year that Le'Veon Bell had the contract situation?
Oh yeah.
That was really rough for me, bro. That was bad. I drafted Le'Veon Bell.
It's the year that he held out basically the entire season.
Yeah, he held out the entire season in Pittsburgh. I drafted Le'Veon Bell with like one of my top
third
picks.
pick.
It messed up my whole year, bro. It was a travesty, bro. So yeah, don't be that guy. But advice for a first time player, I would say, have fun. Don't join a money league if you don't know how to draft. Don't join a money league if you don't know what you're doing. I would suggest you, I would suggest. Oh, for a first-time player, do a bunch of mock drafts. I don't have to do any mock drafts, but for a first-time player, do a lot of mock drafts. Just so you get used to the groove of where the players are going, how to construct a team, different scenarios on if one player falls off that you wanted and another player falls off that you wanted, which players that you can kind of go back and get. I like to make a list of guys that I can I take this shit seriously. So I like to make a list of guys that I can draft, that I want to draft at every position. So I got like top 5 guys at every position or whatever the case is. I mean, we do a show every week, so why not?
Yeah.
Right? So it's just
I have a list of players that I will never draft again.
Yeah. So advice: have fun, and then do a lot of mock drafts, and don't join as many money leagues, because if you don't end up winning your money league, you can get discouraged and not want to play again. So I would kind of stay away from doing it.
Before you go, I have another advice, and it kind of piggybacks off the last point that Izzy made. Don't join multiple leagues. Like, don't do I have 5-6 different fantasy leagues. No, I
have a lot, but
don't be that person, because it's just so hard to, after a while it becomes so hard to keep track of what you got going on.
Man, TJ,
I'm in 6 leagues.
Fantasy has become expensive. It has become an expensive part of the year for me. This year alone, I'm probably gonna. I join. I have nothing but all money leagues, and then I'm probably in one league that's a non-money league. That I'm not, spending any money on a fee to get in. I'm probably gonna spend at least $300-400 this year on money leagues this year.
No.
I'm up there on the money spent, but I could easily win a bunch of money. My advice for a first-time player, as I know I talked a lot of smack about don't beat this guy stuff and don't beat this guy. Like, if you're a first-time fantasy player, first of all, don't play for money. That's a big one.
Right. No.
I'm an experienced guy, so I play for the money.
Not you. You're not a first-time player, are you?
Okay.
I'm talking about first-time players. Don't play for money. And my honest advice is just do whatever you want. Like, the only way you can ever learn to be good at anything is by doing whatever you want. Like, if you just feel like you need to do this draft strategy for a first-time fantasy player and you want to roll the dice on whatever crazy strategy you think you're going to roll it out with, go for it. Just have fun, do whatever you want, and I mean it's meant to be fun. Like, get the red zone. That's another do. Like, you should, if you play fantasy football, you should have NFL red zone, because it's incredible.
You don't really necessarily have to you could stream it.
I mean, but watch it. Watch Red Zone. It's amazing. Like, it's the greatest football experience ever.
It is the greatest.
When you have a fantasy football team and you watch Red Zone, and all of a sudden it cuts to a game randomly, and it's funny, your guy scored a touchdown. You're like, oh my god, this is the greatest ever. It's so awesome.
No. My favorite part of Red Zone is the end of Red Zone, where they recap
the touchdown montage. Yeah. And I do love me some Scott Hansen too, man. That guy is talented. That guy is so talented.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, my advice for first-time player: have fun, do whatever you want. I know I said don't be this guy, but be that guy. What do you got to just everything about you? There's a first time for everyone.
He spent all that time saying don't be that guy to, you know what, be that guy.
At least if you're a first-time player. If you're not a first-time player, don't be that guy. But if it's your first league and your first draft and your first doing whatever, go ahead, be that guy. You don't know better. You're just having fun. It's meant to be fun.
You don't know better.
Yeah. But yeah, this has been our overall fantasy football show, preseason advice. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned some stuff. This went over roster construction, our draft strategy, with every single position in fantasy football. We also talked about some do's and don'ts, and we all talked about don't beat this guy. And we had some advice for people who are just starting out. I've been David Huppin, right there, Mr. Israel Rivera, CEO of Prime Sports World, and TJ Hopkins joining me on the show as always. Tomorrow I am going to be out of town, so I'm not sure exactly what the schedule looks like for Prime Sports World this weekend. I should be back on Sunday to do the crossover, because it's been a hot minute since we did one. And LeBron James shockingly signed a contract extension this morning. Yeah.
Is it shocking?
I was pretty surprised, to be honest with you, based on the state of the Lakers. We'll talk about this on Sunday when we get into the crossover. I did not expect him to sign that.
But before we go, fantasy football.
You and Christian are going to have a field day with this during the season. So.
Man.
I just you know what? One of the years I might surprise y'all enjoying. I don't know.
And also, what you guys should do for the crossover, man. I'm sick and tired to my stomach about hearing about KD and Kyrie's trade situation.
We literally had a show.
We already did that.
We already did that. We did that like a month ago.
Like
we did it a month ago, and it's continuing.
Yeah, we've made a decision. Me and TJ made a decision. We're not talking about either of those two players. We're not talking about either of those two players until something actually happens.
Like Izzy, we ain't talking about KD, Kyrie, Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. None of those 5 guys until something.
No, those two guys in particular. I'm sorry, going off track here at the end of the show, but look, those two guys in particular, I'm sick of it. I heard Kyrie say, "Oh, the Nets aren't trading Kyrie for future draft interests." I'm like, dude, who gives a crap? I'm sick of this shit.
We are probably going to be doing. We're talking about the LeBron James. We're going to talk about players who have the most improved this season, and then we're going to do some GOAT talk on Sunday when we break into the crossover. So you don't want to miss that content. That's going to be on Sunday, gentlemen. What are we doing here at the Prime, my friends? Yeah,
we bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. Bring the heat.
We do bring the heat.
And David, you should come up with a GOAT talk. That way we can have like 2 of them. Like I do one and then you do one.
All right, I'm in. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's go. All right, man. I'll see you on Sunday. You guys all have a good weekend. And the Bears are on right now. I know they're getting killed, but like they're on TV.
What are you watching?
Maybe they're winning. I must have misread
winning.
the score. I thought they were losing 14-0, but they're up.
They're winning 70-0.
70-0 All right, never mind. I was wrong. We will see you guys on Sunday.
On that again.
Things are going off the rails here at Prime Sports World. We will see you guys later. You all have a good weekend. Peace out, man.